Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar for Groupcall Messenger. I'm just going to hold on for another minute or so just to see if we've got any latecomers, and in another couple of minutes we shall get started. Thank you very much. Okay, so seems we've got pretty much everybody here now, so we'll get started. So again, welcome everybody to this afternoon's webinar for Groupcall Messenger and preparing for September. So I'm Scott, I'm part of the training and support team here at Groupcall. And today we're going to be taking a look, just a brief look in the system at things that you can do to sort of help prepare for the busy months of September when you come back from the summer holidays. During the course of today's webinar, if you do have any questions, you should have the ability to type those questions and send them over to us. I've got a colleague of mine from our support team that will be on hand to answer questions as we go through. And at the end, we'll take a quick look to see if there are any questions that haven't been answered that we can answer on the webinar. If there are any questions that we cannot answer on today's webinar, then rest assured we will reach out to you individually after the webinar session has ended, and we'll sort of talk more one-to-one about the question that you leave us. So the things that we're going to be looking at today, we're going to look at how you can manage user profiles in Groupcall Messenger, so how to add new users in so they can log in and send messages, how to reset passwords and that sort of thing if people have forgotten them over the summer. Also going to take a little look at general checks that you can do for September in terms of what you can do within the system during September to make sure your communication is getting out to all of the parents and your new parents. Also going to talk a little bit about how Groupcall Messenger syncs with your MIS at school. And yeah, and then we'll stop at the end for a little bit of a Q&A if we have some time left. So without further ado, we're going to get started. And the first thing that we're going to look at is about the users in Groupcall Messenger. Now, when you come back from the summer, you may wish to either add new users into the system so that they can send messages. You might also get some members of staff that already have a login, but they've forgotten their password. So I'll show you how to edit the passwords and sort of reissue them as well. So if you want to add a new user in the Groupcall Messenger system, you should be able to see my little demo account here. We go into the tools section on the left hand menu. In here you will see a section for users, and then you'll see where it says add new user. So we click onto here. The first option when adding a new user is the system will ask you if you want to create the user from an existing staff member that we would already be importing from your MIS in school. This is usually the easiest way to add a staff member because it means that the system will autofill a lot of the data for you. So we'll select from an existing staff member, and then we're going to go to next step in the bottom right. So then it's going to ask us who we are setting up a username for. So all that you would do here is simply start typing in the name of the staff member in question. So I'm going to use Trevor Smith here. So we tick Trevor, and again in the bottom right we go to next step. So at this stage the system will have auto-filled all of these fields for you. for the details for that staff member. Now, before we go to the next step, you need to make sure that all 4 fields here are populated with information. If you are at this stage and there's no phone number in the field for the mobile phone, feel free to use the school's main landline. This is just something that can sometimes be used for password resets, but it's not always used. So you can quite easily use the landline for the school there. But once you've got all the details in here, we simply go to next step again. On this screen, the system will then give you the username that it is going to allocate to this member of staff. The username is usually the school's DFE number, followed by the first name and surname of the staff member in question. So we then go to next step again. And then this is the important part of adding a new staff member in. At this stage, you can then see what level of access you want to give to this staff member. So we have 4 sort of user profiles that range from a minimum user all the way up to an administrator. In a nutshell, a minimum user is somebody that can log into the system and they can compose messages, but they can't actually send those messages out. What they have to do instead is they have to submit those messages, and then they need to be authorized to be sent by somebody with a higher level of access. And then the levels of access sort of go up in sort of increments until you get to the administrator, who has the highest level of access to the system. If you want to know a little bit more about what these user profiles involve exactly, at the bottom center of the screen, there's a little information button here, which you can click on, and then it will give you some descriptions on what each profile will do for you. So we're just going to choose an administrator here and go to the next step. If you subscribe to any extra systems from Groupcall, then you can choose to give this user access to those systems. Just as an example, you've got the Parents Evening Booking System, which we provide, and the School Workspace, which is the Forms module for Groupcall Messenger. Once you've selected those, we go to the Send button in the bottom right-hand corner, and then you will come to this screen here. Now, this one does confuse people sometimes. On this screen, it is asking if you want to disable this user from sending messages via these particular routes. So with Trevor Smith here, if we were deciding that we did not want Trevor Smith to send out any SMS messages from the system, we would tick this box to stop Trevor being able to send SMS messages. So just bear in mind that if you do want people to be able to send via every method you have in school, just make sure that none of these are ticked. And then we go to next step. On here, this will just give you a final sort of overview of everything that we've done so far. So all the user details for the staff member and everything that we've sort of done in that process. And once you're happy with this, all that you would do is you would hit send. Now, once you hit send, an automated email will be sent to the email address that was populated when we created the staff member, and it will give them all of the instructions on what website to go to, how to log in. It will issue them with like a one-off password, and when they first log into the system, it will ask them to change that password to something more memorable. So that's the first part. Next, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to reset somebody's password if they have forgotten it over the summer break. So if that's the case, then all that we would do is we would go to Tools, Users, and then Manage Users. Now in Manage Users, you will see a list of everybody that currently has access to your Groupcall Messenger system in school. If you can't see this particular section, this is mostly viewable to administrators within the system, so you would probably be best to talk to colleagues to get access to that. And what we would do is we would choose the member of staff that we want to edit the password for. So for example, we're going to go with this user at the bottom here. On the right, you will see an Actions button. And in here, you will see where you can edit the user. So when you edit the user, you can type in a new password and then confirm that new password, and you would simply save that in there. Once you have saved it, you can give that staff member their new password to the system, and when they log in, they will be prompted to change it again. One key thing to do is to know is that when you are in this section, you will not be able to edit the user for the username that you are currently logged in as. So if we were logged in as Sean here, we would not be able to use these commands for our own user. So you would have to get somebody else with an administrator level of access to edit these for you. If you wanted to change somebody's profile level, then you can simply go to change profile, and you can change them from whether it's a minimum user to a power user or an administrator. You can change them here and then submit. And if you have anybody that's been locked out of their Groupcall Messenger account, you will see where it says locked out here, it says false for everybody, but it will say true for those that are locked out. And all that you can do from there is you can, instead of saying disable user, that will just say enable user, and you can re-enable them from there as well. Likewise, if you have anybody that's left the school, you can delete the user from here as well, just to remove them from the system altogether so they don't have access anymore. So that's everything to look at regarding the users. So the next thing we're going to go through is just some general checks that you can do for September for when you come back from summer. Now, one thing to check during the month of September is that a lot of the communication is being received by the parents that you are sending it to. So one of the things that I'm going to advise that you do in September is pay close attention to the message history once you've sent out your messages. So the history is on the left-hand menu here, and you can look at today's history, yesterday, the last 7 days, or all of the history in the system. Okay, you will then get a list of the messages that have been sent out. You can then click into a message to see a list of everybody that message was sent to, and you will see that there will be a status for email status, SMS status, however you have sent the message out. Now, these status meanings can there can be a few in there that you might not know of. If there are any that you don't know what they mean, then on your left-hand menu, go to the Help section, click on Help Online. This will then bring you to the homepage for Groupcall Messenger, and you can click on this Getting Started section on the message history. When you click on the message history, you can scroll down until you see message statuses, and then you can look at the SMS status meanings, which will explain each status and what it means. Alternatively, you can go to a website which is groupcall.com/cheat sheets. This is something new that our team are building here at Groupcall, and in here we're going to be dropping some cheat sheets for various things to do with the messenger system. At the moment we have a cheat sheet in here for the email status meanings, and what you would do is you would click onto one which will then give you a little sheet that you can look at the status meanings and some advice from ourselves on what you can do if you see them in your Groupcall Messenger system. So another check that you can do in September is you can check to see what communication is going to a particular parent. If you ever wanted to do that, it's very easy to do from our advanced messaging section. So if we go into advanced messaging, on this first page here, in the top left, you can search for a particular child. So for example, if we search for Archie Ansel here, and then what we do is we add to recipient to move them over to this little box bottom section down here. Here you will see the parent, and if we click into Regina here, now in here you'll be able to see all of the communication that was sent between the school and the parent. So you'll be able to see a list of all of the messages, whether the message was sent via SMS, email, expressions, and so on, the message itself, which user in school it was sent by, and if there's any responses as well. Another good thing from here is if you ever need it, you can actually export the communication history between yourself and the parent as well. You can export that as an Excel spreadsheet. So in September, you're likely to have a lot of changes in data coming across from your MIS into Groupcall Messenger. Now, once we have actually got that data in the system, you can then use our metrics section to run some reports for missing data, just to see that we've got all the data we need. So on the left-hand menu, we have the metrics section, and then we have data quality reports. In the data quality reports, you can run a report for anything that you see in this list. So for example, you could run a report for contacts without an email address. What we will do is we go to next step and then send in the bottom right. What the system will then do is it will analyze your account for anybody that is missing an email address, and it will create a group for them within advanced messaging. So when we go back to advanced messaging, in the address book on the left hand side, you will see there is a section for data quality. We expand that section and you will see the report that we ran just now, because it'll have the day's date on it. So you tick that group, it will move everybody over onto the right hand section, and once they're over there, you will then be able to either save that group or you can export them to an Excel spreadsheet as well. So all of the contacts are here, and there's the export to Excel button just there. So you could export that as an Excel spreadsheet and then cross-reference it with your MIS data to see if you've got the relevant information in. Once you are done with that report, you can then simply right-click on it from the data quality section and you can delete it from the system. So when you are checking for missing data in your MIS, each management system that we link with, we are looking for generally the same sort of thing. So as an example, SIMS is a very common MIS that a lot of our customers use. And in SIMS, we're looking for things like parental responsibility. That's a key one across all MIS systems, making sure that the parents that you've entered into the MIS have parental responsibility. And that also the mobile number is actually stored in the correct place within SIMS or in any other MIS as well. What I would say, because there's so many different MISs to sort of talk through, if you have any students where the data is not coming across, what I would do is I would find another child in group call whose details you do have within the messenger system, because then what you can do is you can simply compare in your MIS, whether it be SIMS, Integris or any of the others, and you can compare the data to see what is different between those two children. And that should give you enough clues to figure out what it is that's wrong that's causing it that child not to come across into the Groupcall Messenger system. Obviously, these are just checks that you can do yourselves. If it is getting a little bit too complicated for you, then our support team are always on hand to help you look into that as well. So do feel free to get in touch with them. In terms of checking that your Groupcall Messenger system is actually updating from your MIS, this is very, very easy within Groupcall itself. On your homepage, all that you have to do is look in the very bottom left-hand corner and you will see a little message just down here. So Groupcall Messenger uses a tool called Exporter to bring information from your MIS into the Messenger system. Now, typically, we will update from your MIS once every single day. Usually it's between midnight and about 4 a.m. But down in the bottom left, it will tell you when it last ran anyway, so it'll give you a date and a time. There will also be these three little green dots to indicate that the link with Exporter and your MIS is healthy and that it's working. If it does ever break for any reason, those three green dots will turn red. And if you do see some red dots there, it's time to get in touch with us so that our support team can look into it for you. Now, with that link, it will of course be updating every single day. In September, you will have things like your new intake to come into the system and also your leavers that have left the school. Now, in terms of when they get imported into the system, with your new intake, we don't import any children from your MIS until they are classed as on roll, which would usually be, say, the first day of school when they are admitted as on-roll children on your MIS. So usually you would have to wait until perhaps the day after for them to actually appear in Groupcall Messenger. Similar kind of situation with your leavers. When they are classed as off-roll in your MIS, upon the next sync with Messenger, it will then remove them from the system as well. Something else that's worth bearing in mind for those of you that have parents that use our Expressions app to receive messages from school, any new parents to the school will need to wait for 24 hours after the start date of the child before they can log in to Expressions for that child. We do need a little bit of extra time for that app to sync with the MIS data that we're getting. Same thing if you've got parents that already have one child in school and then they've got another child joining the school. Again, they'll need to wait until 24 hours after the start date of the child before they actually see them within the Expressions app as well. And on the lines of that as well, when we say about logging into Expressions, if the new child doesn't show in the Expressions app, we do advise that you recommend that the parent log out of the app and then log back in again. And that isn't a simple case of uninstalling the app. that doesn't work. They have to be in the app and actually log out of the app using the menu within the app itself to log out of the app and then log back in again. Obviously, any questions about that, any issues with that, again, let us know. So that is pretty much everything that we need to talk to you about today in terms of preparing for September in Groupcall Messenger. Over the summer, if you know that your school is going through any MIS changes, if you're taking on a new MIS system, or if you are changing servers over the holidays as well, we do advise that you let our support team know as soon as possible, because any changes with your MIS or your servers in school will affect the exporter tool that is bringing data across into the Groupcall Messenger system from your MIS. So as soon as you know of any changes that are going to be happening in school, please do let the support team know so that they can action anything that we need to do on our end to support that. Finally, the last thing that I will show you today is if you do need to contact our support team, it's very easy to do from within the system. All that you do is, again, you go to the help section and you simply use the contact support feature here. There is the telephone number in the top left-hand corner which you can call for support, and also you can fill in this little form here. So you put a subject of your query, pop your message in there, and then just fill in an email address that you would like the team to respond to. Submit that, and it will go through to our support team as a ticket, and they will either respond to you via email or they will give you a call depending on the issue. And that, guys, is everything that we need to take you through today. So what we'll do now is we'll just pause just to see if there are any questions that have been asked that we can answer on this webinar. If you do have any questions, feel free to pose them now. As I say, if there are any that are asked that we can't answer on the webinar, we will follow up with you individually. For now, I will say thank you very much for listening to me today. Appreciate the time that you set aside for me this afternoon. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good summer break and look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. So we're going to pause for a quick look and see if there are any questions, and we will go from there. Okay, so there's one question asked by Rachel about recording of the webinar. Yes, there will be a recording sent out to everybody that's participated today. So you will receive that recording. I believe it will be sent out over the next couple of days, so keep an eye out on that one. And I've just seen another question from the same person, Rachel again, about the cheat sheets. That is a really simple website to go to. It is just groupcall.com/cheat sheets. And you'll find those in there. There's a question from Kerry there about what is WisePay. You've probably spotted that on the main homepage here. WisePay is an online payment system which we can provide to your school. If you want to know a little bit more about that, then please let us know and we can get somebody to get in touch to give you some information on that system. So there's a question from Michael about the Expressions app, why uninstalling it does not resolve the issue that I mentioned earlier on. Simply uninstalling the app doesn't necessarily log the parent out of the app. I believe that the app will actually save the data that the parent puts in. So if they were to reinstall it again, it will remember where they left off. This is why we recommend actually logging out of the app before uninstalling it for the parent anyway. It just guarantees that we can refresh the data that is in that app itself. If you are having any issues with this particular query, then please let our support team know, just in case we need to look at it in more detail with a particular parent or yourself at school. And there's a question from Ruth. regarding having some old registration groups listed in the system and how you can delete them. Ruth, I think it's probably best that we reach out to you separately after the webinar, because maybe we need to take a look at why they are actually lying in the system for you. So we've got your details here. Somebody will reach out to you later on today. Okay, brilliant. I think that's just about all of the questions that we've got for today. So again, everybody, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate what you set aside for us today. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. We look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. Thank you very much.